Hey everyone, and welcome back. So now it's time to take a look at the new Nintendo Switch games for this week. And I have 9 games lined up for you, releasing between now and Sunday of this week, that are actually, I would say, very interesting games coming to the Switch so late in its life cycle. So let's jump into the games, and don't forget, if you are liking the content, to hit that like button. So our first game for this week is going to be Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time, that is releasing on May 21st and will have a sales price of $59.99 for the regular version and $69.99 for the deluxe version. Now, this is a basically action RPG slash life sim game. A lot of people are looking towards the release of this game in a very positive fashion, and I've got to say I am as well. But what has me most intrigued is the company has already announced that there will be a Nintendo Switch 2 version of the game as well. And apparently, this I have not been able to confirm 100%, but there will be an upgrade available for people who buy the Switch 1 version and later on upgrade to a Switch 2, which has me very interested, and I'm really hoping that a lot more third-party developers start doing this kind of thing, where rather than re-releasing their games, offer upgrade packs to people who already bought them on the Nintendo Switch 1. So let's jump into the trailer and take a look at why this game has me interested for this week. It has a really cutesy art style. It almost reminds me of of Animal Crossing in its visual like art style. However, it seems to have a bigger action focus. Combat life, gathering life, farming life, crafting life. I love this. Honestly, I haven't been excited for a life sim game for a while, but this one has me intrigued. So that is basically Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time. Look, it is what it is. Either you're into this kind of game, you're open to the idea of a cozy slash action game, but I'm going to try this one out. I really do want to try this one out. Now, it is a full-priced release at $59.99. I am going to, however, try to confirm if a Nintendo Switch 2 version is going to be releasing. If it is a separate version and I cannot upgrade the Nintendo Switch 1 version, I'm just going to wait till the Nintendo Switch 2 comes out. And either way, I'm not sure I'm going to be trying it this week, so I might wait either way. But nonetheless, I do think this is an extremely interesting game for this week. If you're into this kind of gaming, I think this is going to be one of the better releases till we get those big first-party games like Animal Crossing. But like I said, this isn't offering the exact same thing. It has a much more action twist to it. So that is our first game for today. Let's move on to our second one, which is another game that I really would like to try for this week, and that is Mobile Suit Gundam Seed Battle Destiny Remastered, that is also releasing on May 21st and is going to be selling for $39.99. Now, this game has been released before in other regions. However, it is the first time it's going to be released in its full version. Sorry about that. In its full version for North America, and really finally being fully translated for us. And I've got to say, I am a pretty big fan of the Gundam franchise. And I did like Gundam Breaker 4, but I think this one's going to be more mission-based, and this is more a game that I'm going to want to play through as a full playthrough that really will have me motivated to push through the storyline. So ultimately, if you're a Gundam fan, on top of it, the fact that they're releasing it for $39.99 and not at full price has me really hoping that this is going to be a pretty good pickup for this week. Let's take a look at the trailer and you'll see exactly what this game has to offer. It's looking pretty snazzy, I've got to say. Apparently, there's hundreds of different Gundams available. A lot of customization options. Yeah, Gundam Seed is one of the most popular Gundam series as well, so it has a huge audience. So a lot of people have been asking this one to have a Western release for a long time. I know that this is one of the games that was top of the list requested. There we have it. Gundam Seed, Battle Destiny, remastered. Honestly, it has me hyped. If you're a fan of Gundam, I mean, the gameplay looks fantastic. The series it's based on is an extremely popular and a really good one on top of it. If you haven't watched Gundam, I would say Gundam Seed is one of the excellent places to start in the Gundam universe. Ultimately, this game has a lot of positive vibes for me for this week. Once again, I'm hoping to get a review code for this one. Fingers crossed, we might be able to play it this week, but it'll be very dependent on that. If not, I'll be picking it up at a later date during an eShop sale here or there. So we have Gundam Seed, our second game for this week. Now let's move into our third one. Now this game has me worried, the third one. The third game for this week is going to be Trident's Tale, releasing on May 22nd for a price of $24.99. Now, I've got to say, this is a 3D action-adventure game. Seems to be more of a hack-and-slash genre of game. And I've got to say, if just the trailer is an example of the gameplay, the frame rate already looks choppy in the trailer. So I'm worried about this game. And I've decided to put it in the list of games for this week. Half because the concept of the game is interesting, but I wanted to put it there as a warning as well, to maybe not jump into this game blindly, because just by the frame rate that we can see in the trailer, I'm worried about how this game will run. And if there's one game for this week that I would say definitely wait for a review on, or wait to see like someone come up with at least a performance review of the game, it's this game, Trident's Tale. $24.99, if this game would be running top notch, would actually make perfect sense, and I would say would be a decent offering. However, let's take a look at the trailer and you can tell me if you see the same thing that I see. Like, I don't know about you, but those frame rates already here and like don't look very good. And these are hand-picked scenes for the trailer. So that means this is probably the best the game has to offer. Dude, did you see that? I just want to replay something here really quick. Like you'll see the skeleton hits your character and it's like there's no hitbox. Look, the character goes right through you. There's like no collision detection. Look, boom, the character went right through you. I'm being really, really bad with this game, but you know what? I can't believe you put that in the trailer. I'm just gonna say it like that. I can't believe you put that scene in the trailer. And it's too bad because the concept itself looks amazing. And what really has me also sort of like weirded out, if we could say, is that this is an art style that should work very well on the Switch. because it has that cartoony art style that Nintendo goes for to really work with the Switch. And even with that art style, it seems to be having very dodgy performance. And on top of it, this is a multi-console or multi-platform trailer, meaning that this footage was not necessarily exclusively from the Switch or even at all from the Switch. So I'm really wondering how this game is going to come out. And it's too bad because the concept of the game itself looks amazing. Like, this art style as for a pirate game done well would be absolutely fantastic. I'm just really worried about the performance. But that's it. Trident's Tale, releasing on May 22nd, $24.99. Wait for a performance review. If it turns out to be good, maybe we've got something on our hands. But if not, this is maybe a more of a cautionary tale for this one for this week. Okay, let's jump into our next game. Because the next one is more of a positive vibe than the last one. Next, we're going to be looking at Power Sync. Now, Power Sync is also releasing on May 22nd for $14.99. Now, this is a 3D puzzle platformer, and this one is right up my alley. I love puzzle platformers, and this one really has a awesome artistic look to it. I love the fact that it's designed around puzzle gameplay, so it's not about combat, it's not about action. There is some action because you're dodging traps and things like that, but ultimately it's more geared towards puzzle solving. And as you know, if you've watched the channel, I'm a huge fan of puzzles. So let's take a look at the trailer. You'll see what I'm seeing, and on top of it, $14.99, really nice price point for a game with this visual quality in this genre. Only thing I can hope for is that the game is long enough to merit the price. Because if you can knock it out in 2 or 3 hours, I'll be slightly disappointed, however. Now you see this, the platforming looks a little bit floaty. But number one, it fits because you're underwater. So you want it to be floaty. And number two is it's a puzzle platformer. So it's okay for the controls to be a little floaty or reaction-based. And like I said, either way, it's underwater. If it was too crisp, it just wouldn't make sense. I love, though, the visuals here. Art-wise, number one. This reminds me, I'm trying to remember the name, but this reminds me a lot of another puzzle platformer I played. But you were in space visiting different planets. I played it on stream. I played it about, I would say, like a year and a half ago to 2 years ago. It seems like an upgraded version of that game and set underwater with even higher quality visuals. Power Sync has me very, very excited for this week. This one as well, I asked for a review code. Hopefully it'll come through. We shall see. This is another game that potentially we'll be playing on the channel for this week. But I think if you're a puzzle platformer fan, for $15, and if you want to drop money on a game for this week, this one should be very high on your checklist. Next, we have yet again, and look, I'm sorry, I'm going to sound like a broken record this week, but yet again, a game that I'm very excited for. And this one I might actually drop the cash on, even if I don't get a review code. And that is Duck Detective, The Ghost of Glamping, that is releasing on May 22nd. And this one is selling for an amazingly low price of $9.99. Now, this is the follow-up to a game that I did not know on the Nintendo Switch. Now, I might actually be picking up the first Duck Detective game as well, because I had no idea, but I did check the critical reception, and the first game is extremely well received. Now, it's a more a narrative-driven game, but it's a narrative-driven detective game. Look, I don't know how I missed the first game, but look, I missed it. It happens sometimes. Basically, the aesthetics look like Paper Mario, but it's not an RPG. It's a narrative-driven, puzzle-solving detective game. How did I miss this? I have no freaking idea. But the important thing is I didn't miss the second one, and now I'm probably going to work back to the first one as well. And we can only hope that this second one is going to deliver as good of an experience as the first one did. If it does, we have a great game on our hands if you're a fan of narrative-driven experiences. So let's take a look at the trailer, and you'll see just what I'm talking about here.
I've always been drawn to mystery and misery, like a duck to water.
Like I said, you know, not exactly, but it does definitely give a Paper Mario vibe to the gameplay.
When you're famous like me, it's difficult getting some peace and quiet.
It was a ghost! Don't let it kidnap you and lock you in the ruins forever.
How dare they vandalize my tent!
The only thing I'm haunted by is my past. And I intend to keep it that way.
I feel this is Howard the Duck if he became a detective rather than a loudmouth, like, gangster type character. But honestly, a duck detective, the ghost of glamping, I think it's going to be top of the line for a narrative adventure for this week. And at only $10, oh my God. Especially after the first one received such great critical reception. I'm actually impressed that the developer didn't try to go for a higher price for the second one. Now, maybe the game is short. I don't know about that part of it. But at least just based on the fact that the first one seems to be such a great game. Yeah, the Secret Salami is the first one. I think that this one could be a stellar pickup for this week. Narrative fans out there, definitely check this one out. Okay, moving on to our next game. Now, our next game, once again, I knew nothing about, but it is probably one of the best idle games ever to hit the system. And that is Cookie Clicker. That is hitting the Switch on May 22nd as well. And it's going to be selling for only $4.99. Now, this is a game that started its life on as a web browser game. I think after that, it even went to mobile. And now it's finally hitting consoles. Apparently, it's an idle game. So, you know, it's like one of those games where the point is just to do like these repetitive activities, but it becomes extremely addictive and you sort of have to log in all the time to sort of drop like your daily activities or whatnot. But apparently, it's the best one out there. And there should really be no microtransactions in the Switch version. So I really can't be against a game like this. And for the right type of player, this could be a very addictive and satisfying experience. And at only $4.99, I just wish I knew more about the gameplay itself, because I didn't go as far as to watch like gameplay, like, you know, gameplay footage or whatnot. But I just heard that it's one of the best idle games out there. Coming out for this week on May 22nd. Let's take a look at the trailer. However, I've got to be honest, we don't see much in the trailer for the gameplay side. But the point is just to make as many cookies as possible, apparently, and to basically invest that into getting more people to help you make more cookies in the game. So I don't know if all you do is just press the A button, but that seems to be where they're going with the trailer. But no, there's upgrades, there's different paths you can take for the upgrades and whatnot. But I think if you're like the kind of person that likes idle games, you know, games that sort of take very little brain power, it's just about doing repetitive actions over and over again, and that gives you a certain element of satisfaction. Apparently you can't go wrong with this one for this week, and at $5 it's a very low investment. So probably going to be one of the top games on your list if you're a fan of these kind of games. Okay, now we're getting into probably one of the bigger releases for this week as well. And this one is hitting us on May 23rd. And that is Onimusha 2 Samurai's Destiny, that was announced not too long ago, coming to the Switch and different consoles as well. Now, there are a ton of trailers out there. I chose the one that gave us the best mix of like a little bit of storyline, a lot of gameplay, but you can actually go and look online. There are a ton of trailers available, character-based trailers, like introducing the different characters and whatnot. But ultimately, if you're looking for an action hack and slash game, Onimusha 2 is a very good old school game in that genre. I'm just gonna specify it's old school gameplay in the sense like PS2 era gameplay. But if you enjoy that type of game, this one's going to be an extremely good pickup for this week. And I really have no doubt that performance-wise, it should hold up on the Switch. Because since it's originally, if I'm not mistaken, a PS2 version, a PS2 game, it shouldn't have much of an issue running on the Switch. Let's take a look, and you'll see what this game has to offer. So, warning, blood, violence, and gore. And we're about to get a new Onimusha game too, if I'm not mistaken. So it's like a great time to like sort of dive back into the series. And I'm really hoping the new game comes to the Switch too. Easy mode available from the start. So if you're the type of person that just wants to enjoy the game without having to worry too much, you don't have to die, because I think in the original one you had to die a bunch of times to have the easy game unlocked. Now, I do want to get into the outfit thing. Apparently, there's a little bit of a kerfuffle online, if you could say, or complaints online, because apparently a lot of the outfits have been censored, however, to show less skin, especially on the female characters. A lot of people are unhappy with that. I'm totally against censorship, but should it stop you from enjoying a classic game? I wouldn't go that far. I just think that the company should come to a realization that they don't really need to do that. Especially that these games will most likely be classed for, like, you know, teen or up. So showing a little bit of a cleavage on a female costume or whatnot should not be an issue overall. You know, I agree in games that are like, you know, like E for everyone or whatnot. But for a game that's like teen or above, for a little bit of cleavage and stuff, like, come on, let's get real, guys. We don't need to censor stuff like that. But I just wanted to mention that I'm aware of the controversies online. However, I still think that overall at $30, I'm also impressed that Capcom's going with a more budget price point for this release. At $30, I still think that this is going to be a fun release for this week. So if you're a fan of old school action gameplay, or even just action gameplay in general, you're looking for a fun game to drop a few hours into, Onimusha 2 can be a great pickup for this week. And like I said, $30 feels like a fair price point, especially for a remake of the game, because this, you can see that they did do some work on it. Okay. Now we are down to our last two games for this week. Our before last game is going to be another sequel coming to us for this week. And that is going to be Please Touch the Artwork 2, that is releasing on May 23rd. And once again, it has an extremely low release price of $4.99 with a pre-release discount of 10% off, dropping it to $4.49. Now, Please Touch the Artwork is another puzzle game. However, it is a puzzle game that also has a narrative message generally to communicate. At least the first game did have a story and a narrative message to communicate through the artwork. And yes, you have to actually basically solve puzzles by touching and manipulating the different artworks in the game. And often these are based on true life art, like art pieces that you're manipulating to solve the puzzles. Now, the first game was actually a great game. Please Touch the Artwork 1 was absolutely fantastic. So I do have high hopes for Please Touch the Artwork 2. And once again, at a budget price point of $4.99, if you're a puzzle fan, this is another great game to maybe pick up for this week. Let's take a look at the trailer and you'll see the funky art style that the game has. So like I said, there's like, it's really visual puzzles. The puzzles are generally, I would say, not too hard to resolve once you get the basic flow of the game down. So it's finding objects that are hidden throughout the artwork. It sounds simple, but it's actually, it gets more deep than that. I would say maybe the only downside to this game is there's very little replayability once you've played through it. And generally the game, if it's like the first one, the game itself isn't that long. But at the budget price point it's been sold for, it's definitely worth the one-time experience. I compare it to something like, you know, Limbo, where, you know, your second playthrough of Limbo is definitely not is not going to be the same experience as your first playthrough, but it's still worth that one time where the game is fantastic and really gives you a completely original vibe. So Please Touch the Artwork 2, releasing May 23rd, $4.99. If you're looking for a budget game to pick up for this week and you're a fan of puzzles, this is going to be most likely a no-brainer. Like, could they miss the mark here with the second one? It's always possible. I just don't see how it can happen because the first one was such a fantastic little game to pick up. Now we're at our last game for this week. And what is the new Switch games on this channel without a retro pixel art game? I don't know if you guys noticed, we really didn't get another retro pixel art game for this week. I had to find at least one that looked interesting, and I wasn't disappointed. Genopanic, releasing on May 25th for $9.99. Budget price point, yet again. Look, $10 and under for a full price release to me is budget. Looks extremely interesting. Now, this is a 2D action platformer. Very slight Metroidvania elements, apparently. Now, I haven't played the game, but from the descriptions that I've read about the game, basically seems to have very light Metroidvania elements. However, it really tries to deliver more of a linear experience. Like some slight backtracking here and there, but you never really go back to like far zones or whatnot. But the art style looks super interesting. The gameplay looks fun. And ultimately, at a budget price point, if this one delivers a good controls, it's going to be probably a fantastic retro style pickup for this week. Let's take a look at the trailer, and you can see what had me so pumped. Like, the character does look low res, but low res in an interesting way. And I love that the environments seem to have a little bit more details to make things like stand out. And there we go, Genopanic. Releasing May 25th, $9.99. I think this is going to be a really interesting game for this week. Yeah, this is a Rick game. This is a me game. Like, this is the kind of game I love to drop a few hours into, knock it out, and, you know, remember and reminisce on a great little experience. So there we have it, the new Nintendo Switch games for this week. I've got to say, a lot of interesting games for this week. Let me know in the comments down below which was your favorite game that we covered here on today's video. And at the same time, if you think I missed out on a game that I should have highlighted, let me know in the comments down below as well. And don't forget on the way out to hit that like button, subscribe if you aren't already, and click on the notification bell so you know when all my future content comes out. And as usual, I hope I'll see you in my next video.